What is up, my friends, and welcome to another edition of the XFL Week in Review. I am your host, Mark Perry, editor of XFL News Hub. And on this week's show, the TSN recap, some ratings, the latest on the CFL return to play, and more. So before we get this show on the road, this live show, first, we want to say that you can email us at podcast@xflnewshub.com with your MP3s or videos, or call 888-430-7692 extension 3. And remember also to leave us a review on Apple Podcast. We really appreciate that. And remember to like and subscribe to the channel. This is the first time we're going live again. We'll see how this works this time, but so far I think I got everything going on. So apparently right now we're live, and there's also a rain delay in the TSL, so you can head over, hang out with us for a little bit. We'll go through the news, and then we can get back to the TSL game, because there's two tonight. They had to move things around. Somebody said, oh, don't do the show on Monday nights because the TSL is on Monday nights. I believe this is the only time that the TSL is going to be on Monday nights, unless they switch stuff up again. So before we get to all that, first we got to thank our sponsor. You know what it is. It's Manscaped. You get 20% off your Manscaped and free shipping with the promo code XFL News Hub at manscaped.com. So support the XFL Week in Review, brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best men's below-the-waist grooming champion of the world. Manscaped offers precision engineering tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their fourth-generation lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the 4.0. Joined over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer, 20% off and free worldwide shipping using this promo code XFL News Hub at manscaped.com. So get those jewels ready for the summertime. It has begun. It is nice here in the state of Maryland. Just this week, something that I mentioned on a couple articles that I wrote, that Maryland not only opened up the state on Friday for indoor and outdoor, no restrictions, but like 2 days later, no masks if you've been vaccinated. I have one more shot to go. That will be on Wednesday. And then, but it was still, everybody was still wearing their masks when you went outside. But it's a good sign, and this is one of the things we'll get into when we talk about the CFL, because there's a lot of fear right now that's going on. And just because the politicians say something doesn't mean that, trust me, there was nobody talking about no masks before June. They were talking about July. So we'll leave it at that. I also want to thank everybody in the chat. Markcast, of course, as always, my man Reed. I'll get to his question later on in the show. Jacob, Mark Brennan, thanks for checking in. True American checking in. We'll get to your questions and stuff in a little bit. But first, let's get to some of the news of the week. First up, scores from last week's. Did you get a chance to watch the TSL? I didn't. I thought it was fine. I got a chance to watch a couple games, and I thought it was good. I mean, there is a reason why the TSL is on Fox. I'll get into that in a second. But first, we have Alphas versus the Aviators, 23-9. Alphas with the win on that week one. Is that yes? May 6th. Then we have the Conquerors versus the Linemen. Conquerors 27, Linemen 20. I decided that Linemen is my team. I just want to point that out, that Linemen is my favorite team. And the thing is, you could switch teams every year if you want in the TSL. You're not going to get in trouble for it. Sea Lions lost to the Blues 12-15. And the Generals, the big game, Generals, and really Jousters. Generals 21, Jousters 19. Luis Perez played in that game. Didn't play a ton of that stuff, but I will say this. We have up on XFL News Hub the full rosters. Every single team, players have their own page. I'm working on getting the stats up there. That is going to be a little bit tricky. We have a wrestling pay-per-view coming. I will say that the fantasy wrestling app is doing really well. And we've had some drafts and things are working. So the draft engine works. I'm excited about that. I get data from the Spring League, and I could put it in there. I have some data in there. I don't think we'll ever do. There's not gonna be enough time for me to do both. But we have basically with the fantasy wrestling aspect of it, is there's an AEW pay-per-view coming up at the end of the month, and before the end of the month, all the leagues set and do a redraft. So that's what I'm focusing on the rest of this month is getting that redraft working. And then if I have time, I'd like to get that stats in. But it's the redraft, and then we'll see how that goes. But there's data entry for games and rosters and syncing of the rosters to the application. So it's pretty cool. Could we get my goal is to potentially try to get somewhere with the CFL. As much as I don't want the season delayed, it would be nice to give me like a couple extra weeks maybe, but we'll see. But it was a big hurdle to get the data from from spreadsheets into a system. And then it's just really displaying and having your draft and all that engine and waiver wire and that stuff is all in there. It's just kind of needs to be rewritten a little bit. So we could have fantasy CFL coming up this year on XFL News, but it would be on CFL News Hub. Wanted to point that out. So things are looking good there. Some other scores and notes. We had games this past week on Saturday. Conquerors versus Alpha, 21-26. Alpha's with the win again. Vad Lee, my man, he was part of the DC Defenders. I was really excited about him because he's kind of a local guy, James Madison, quarterback, I believe. And so a guy that I really wanted to stick with the DC Defenders roster. He was on there briefly and came out. So he's been looking pretty good in the spring league. And then we get finally the linemen. Yes, my linemen beat my old favorite team, the Aviators, 17-3. So that's what you have it now. And now apparently there's a rain delay in Houston for the other TSL games. So who is your TSL team? You got to pick a TSL team. You got to pick a CFL, a TSL, an ELF team. I already got mine. Mine's the Barcelona Dragons. We have a great article from Matt Lyons explaining the European League Football, ELF, and all the different teams and the history behind it. It's a really great, thorough article. So you want to go check that out. You got to pick your team there, but mine is the Barcelona Dragons for that. I got to work on getting a hat for there. On to some other TSL news. Our man Mike Mitchell got the Week 1 TV ratings on Fox and FS1. Now, I couldn't watch the other game on FS2 this past week because I had to pay for extra for FS2 or something. Xfinity, get out of here. Who do you think you are? So the Spring League capped off their first week of the regular 2021 season on Fox. Game was played at Rice Stadium in Houston, which saw the Generals defeat the Jousters. We went over that. It was the first game ever in TSL history that was broadcast on network television. The Spring League 21 season, we know all about that stuff. The Aviators, the first game on FS1's Thursday night Spring League football doubleheader, posted 995,000 viewers, a 217% jump from the 30,000 viewers the league averaged on the network last fall. I'd say that's a success, people out there. Conquerors versus Lyman, the second game of the doubleheader, scored 51,000 viewers, up 70% from the 30,000 average from last fall. Friday night's Blues Sea Lions game averaged 114,000 viewers, up 280% from the 30,000. Week 1, the game on Fox and TSL of FS1 averaged 275,000 viewers, an 800% increase. These figures are from courtesy of Fox Sports. Thanks to our man Mike Mitchell for getting that. The Generals Jousters on Fox TV scored a .24 household rating. The overall telecast averaged 380,000 viewers, 997,000 in the most important 18 to 49 demo. And so Mike Mitchell gives us a comparison of Saturday's network sports. The PGA on CBS did 2 million. Premier League on NBC did 970. FCS football on ABC 700,000. NWLS Challenge Cup got 500,000. MLS 400, almost 500,000. NHL 500,000, and the Spring League 380,000. I mean, that's really good considering as all of us have said, with we're not even talking about little. We're talking about no promotion whatsoever and a little hook to the spring league or to the XFL when they, having some players that were in the XFL playing in the spring league. I will tell you this. I believe Brian Woods wants to partner with the NFL. And part of me wonders if the spring league, the reason why Fox is keeping the spring league on their FS1 and Fox, are they warming things up for the XFL, seeing if a football league with no promotion whatsoever that they just put on could do well? Is this part of, maybe could we see potentially, because I can't see Fox trying to go head to head with an XFL product in the spring if the spring league is playing. That would just be madness and good luck. Playing at the same time, like none of that would work well, unless if they envision that the spring league is going to be a league and the XFL is not going to be a league. But I mean, I like Brian Woods and all, but you're not The Rock, Danny Garcia, Redbird Capital. So I don't think you're going to go very far. But part of me wonders if the reason why they're doing this is to keep the idea of spring football in the minds of the public going forward. And the TSL kind of reaps the benefits of it. The TSL tries to make a case for itself to be a minor league for the NFL, potentially, if that's what they want to do. And the Fox gets out of it, keeping the seat warm for when the XFL, CFL thing happens, and they can potentially have games on there, because maybe all the games are going to be on NBC. And again, we were just guessing based on the relationship between NBC and The Rock. But Fox, too. Fox loved the XFL, and they did a great job broadcasting it. I was surprised that they weren't maybe the ones that were going to purchase it, but maybe going forward, that's what makes me kind of wonder, like, why are you doing this? I want to go up to Fox and just be like, what are you doing this for? What's the deal? Maybe it's to keep the seat warm for the XFL come the future, or maybe not. Maybe they're all in with the TSL and they're like, XFL isn't going to make it, and Fox and Spring League, they're going to take that, and that's going to be the dominant Spring League for the next 100-year brand. On to some XFL news. Jordan Ta'amu, he joined the Washington football team, no namers, at rookie camp. Now, this doesn't mean he signed or whatever. It just means that they needed a quarterback. Apparently, at the time, there were no quarterbacks eligible on the roster for the camp. Steven Montez, an undrafted rookie in 2020, was ineligible due to service time. So Taylor Heineke's buddy, they called him up, Jordan Ta'amu. He came in and played over the weekend. It's going to be a tough spot for him. He was recently waived by the Kansas City Chiefs. But Washington football team has Ryan Fitzpatrick, Kyle Allen, Heineke, and Montez on their roster. Maybe he has a shot. Somebody gets injured. Maybe we could see Jordan Ta'amu make it on Washington's roster. We'll see. Be helpful, though, if he was playing. I would love to see Ta'amu get signed by a CFL team. Why not? Other XFL, TSL guys, the Dallas Renegades quarterback Eric Dungy, who everybody really wanted to see play for Dallas, he signs with the Cincinnati Bengals. He was going to play in the Spring League. Everybody was excited to see him in the Spring League, but he got moved. He moved on from the Blues, and he got on to the Cincinnati Bengals. He joins Vipers running back Jaquez Patrick on the roster, and he's the sixth Renegade player to sign a future deal. Congratulations to him. So he's on the Bengals roster. Again, remember, a lot of these guys, who knows if they'll even get a chance to stick with this league. We've seen guys cut. We'll get into that in a second. Guys getting picked up and getting cut. Now, speaking of getting picked up and getting cut, the TSL also really, they're doing a little bit better now on the roster stuff and kind of stats, which I think is great. I think, again, people criticize, but, you know, when you don't have a lot of money, even though maybe you can get people to do it for free, I don't know. It's just, but this is a good sign. We got some roster names. Of course, Eric Dungy signed with the Cincinnati Bengals. The big signing, the Generals signed linebacker Brandon Marshall, Super Bowl champion with the Denver Broncos. Also, Battlehawks, this one got out. Matt Jones was released by the Sea Lions. Remember him? I thought he was going to be big. In the stats, he didn't really do much. Those are the notables out there. You can go check out XFL News Hub. We have a list of all the guys that were put on IR, that were released, new guys signed. But those are kind of the notable names this past week in the Spring League. So more guys to check out and more guys to get game tape. In other transaction news in the XFL, New York Jets signed Dallas Renegades running back kick returner Austin Walter. Remember, he signed a contract with the 49ers. Everything was cool. It was like awesome. And then that was in February. He signed a 1-year deal, and then he was cut. But the next day, Jets claim Walter waived Pete Guerrero. Walter is familiar with the New Jets coach Robert Saleh and offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur from their time with the 49ers, so that's why they picked him up. Again, it pays to know people and connections with coaches and do your best, because that will happen. He joins Connor Davis on the New York Jets roster, so he was out. Back in also Walter Palmore, cut along with Savion Smith of the Cowboys. He signed also with the Seahawks. He's a former Houston Roughnecks defensive line. He was in and out last year on the practice squad, played in one game, I believe, and so he is now on the Houston Roughnecks side of things. So congratulations to him getting signed. So guys are getting cut, guys are getting signed. We'll track it all on XFLNewsHub.com. For there, all right, let's see. Just checking in with the YouTubers out there. What's going on? Let's see. They're talking about the delay. Somebody asked if the MLFB still happens. I don't know what's going on with the Major League Football deal. I'm not really sure what the deal is with them going forward. I haven't heard a peep when it comes to the Major League Football deal. Again, I think they've always been a lot of talk. Hey, they're going to do something, and then they don't do anything. On to, now that was the XFL News Hub side. Now let's get into the CFL News Hub side, shall we? With a little bumper action. Here we go. Oh, I guess I need to change that picture, huh? Change that picture. All right, so on to the CFL news this week. Lisa McLeod, the Ontario sports minister, recently came out and said she does not foresee fans in the stands at the start of the CFL season. Ontario just extended its stay-at-home order until at least June 2nd. This is important because Ontario is the home of Toronto, Ottawa, and Hamilton, all three CFL franchises. She says, I would say it would be ambitious. I just saw my own city, blah, blah, blah. Suggesting that she just doesn't see fans in the stands. Now, TSN had previously reported that all 6 provinces had gotten some type of approval to move forward. The issue was that McLeod was contradicting it because she stated, quote, no, we have not added our names yet to signing off on that. We have continually worked with the CFL over the past 14 months. We continue to work with them at the public health table, but to this point in time, no, the Chief Medical Officer of Health of Ontario has not yet signed off on any return to play protocol. Well, of course, some of people took this comment as proof that TSN, who reported things that were a go, and indirectly the CFL, had lied to them about the possibility of returning to play in 2021. However, the reporting did say verbal and was referring to return to practice. McLeod also mentions the start of the CFL season, not the entire CFL season. Now, one of the aspects of the CFL's return to play was the likelihood of playing games in less COVID-affected cities at the start of the season. Teams could practice in these host cities as well, so relax. The possibility of fans in the stands over the summer has been mentioned as a no-go for some areas. However, the CFL plays most of its season in the fall and winter anyways. Dave Naylor reports that the CFL is planning on opening the season in Western Canada in August, and that the 6 provinces have approved return to play protocols. These approvals do not include fans in the stands. Quote, the league's return to play protocols does not address the issue of fans in the stands. Now, the CFL has addressed this issue in the past, saying that they'd be willing to play games in other areas until things begin to open up in places like Ontario. Quote, Provincial and municipal governments in the West have indicated a greater willingness to open stadiums to fans as COVID-19 case counts come down and more Canadians become vaccinated. The league has been giving no assurances by any province thus far that fans in the stands will be permitted, close quote. Now, not having fans in the stands is a significant issue financially for the CFL, but it is still too early to tell how this will go. To give you an example, in the United States of America, in Maryland, the vax rollout ramped up in March. This week, the governor I just mentioned announced that he lifted the occupancy restrictions for everything on Saturday. This policy is way quicker. And then also, like a day later, 2 days later, announces that there's no more masks either. So relax. There's this, and we'll get into that later, this distrust and not liking the CFL. We'll get into that later. But it's too early to tell. And it's not the fault of the CFL if things get delayed and somehow it shows gross incompetence. There is a pandemic going on. You people that I'll get to later on in the show. Let's just put it that way. On to some other news. Edmonton's new team name could be announced for the 2021 season. On Tuesday, the 11th, the Edmonton football team held its annual meeting and received some more insight on the timeline when the announcement will come. Looking at the future, we've been working an extensive and comprehensive rebranding process. The public engagement component. Could you imagine it was something like the Houston Roughnecks logo? Wouldn't that be hilarious? The linemen and the Houston Roughnecks and the Edmonton electrical workers with a little helmet. The public engagement component of the name process started in November 2020 with over 14,000 respondents contributing with over 2,000 unique new names. In February 2021, over 38,000 people ranked their preferences in the final 7 names. The level of interest has been overwhelming, but welcome. We expect to be in position to announce a new name shortly. Hopefully they do that. The colors and everything will be the same. It will just be a logo. They say they are 80 to 85% through the process. And remember, you can't just say the logo. You have to trademark it, and et cetera, et cetera. Name will be announced for the season. Color scheme and logos are staying. Of course, it was reporting the 7 final names are Evergreens, Eagles, Elkhounds, Eclipse, Elks, Evergolds, Elements, Energy. Gotta go with Elks. I'm with Elks. Anybody else not like Elks? Is anybody in the chat room like? Yeah, the Marcast says Elks, baby. I'm with you there. Evergolds. Elements, no. Anybody want Energy? That's kind of lame. I'm not into that one either. No, thank you. We'll go with. We'll stick with our Elks. I think that's the good name. There. Speaking of more CFL stuff out there, Dave Campbell, Edmonton football team color analyst, said an official schedule for the 2021 CFL season is just 2 to 3 weeks away. This is based on his conversation with Edmonton president and CEO Chris Presson. Presson says the process for the 2021 schedule has gone through a couple drafts. Expects to see the final draft in the next week to 10 days. Not all set in stone, but will likely see a schedule release in about 2 to 3 weeks. This is a good sign. Remember, again, in April, the Canadian Football League pushed back the start of the 2021 season to August, cutting the games to 18 to 14 with their target date of August 5th. Some fans and people in the media raised concern over whether the season will happen based on reports that potentially not all provinces have returned to play measures put in place. However, Ambrosi did say they will get creative when the schedule if they have to. We are prepared to be creative as well as prudent. For example, if we're unable to host fans in the East because of COVID-19, we are prepared to start play in the West, provided Eastern teams can return to their home province and play in front of their fans later on in the season. We're going to play football in 2021, but no one believes him. Playoffs were pushed back 3 weeks and now begins on November 28th. With the Grey Hut Cup with myself, Reed, Paul from XFL News Hub, along with anybody else. We will be there. We played at Tim Hortons Field in Hamilton, Ontario, and we will be there for the 108th Grey Cup. You better believe that, sons and daughters. Can't wait for that. Some other news and tidbits from the CFL. And also, one of the things I want to do when it comes to the CFL, as we ramp up our coverage of the CFL on CFL News Hub, is basically right now we're just going to focus on the business side of things and American players. Remember, we are the site that's bringing the American point of view to the CFL. So if some CFL person out there reads an article and I have to explain the cities that are in in Ontario, and you're like, oh, I can't believe they don't know. It's because our mission is to bring the CFL game to the American audience. That's it. And if this partnership, merger, whatever you want to call it, doesn't happen, and the XFL goes away, and the CFL continues on for another 100 years, we're in, and we'll be covering the CFL too. So I think it was something that it was already I was thinking about it even when the XFL was playing, and especially when the XFL went into bankruptcy, I was thinking about it, and now it's definitely we're all in. So who knows? 5 years from now, it could be CFL News Hub, and XFL and TSL could be gone, and that's it. So one of the things we'll do is we'll cover the American players that get signed, as well as kind of the business happenings behind what's going on in the CFL. So Tiger Cats, my Hamilton Tiger Cats, I got the hat on. Add Jamar Smith and offensive lineman Travis Vornkahl. Jamar Smith, undrafted free agent he played for the New England Patriots, spent time on there in 2020. He is from Louisiana Tech University, and he was also drafted in Major League Baseball by the San Diego Padres in 2015, and is the son of former NFL defensive lineman Kenny Smith. And Vornkahl, 25, attended camp with the Saskatchewan Roughriders in 2019 before stints with 3 NFL teams: Browns, Washington, Colts. Played at Texas and tackle for West Texas A&M University over 3 seasons. So congratulations to those guys getting signed. And also Calgary Stampeders signed former Central Florida DB DJ Killings to a team. Now these are all American defensive backs. He had some time with the Patriots, Eagles. He was on the practice squad when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, so he is on their team as well. Those guys are getting signed. All right, that's the news. We'll hit this commercial break. We'll get back to you with the show and your social media stuff right after this. Stay tuned, my friends.
Here's what you missed last week on the Markcast.
Yeah, we got a big timing interview coming up. Sorry, I got some breaking news I'll plug in here in a minute. We got a great interview with Jason Greger coming up. We get into a little NHL stuff. Jason's great. It's been like a month getting him scheduled to come on. We really appreciate that. And then I have Max, listener Max, tweeting me right now. I guess as we record, probably while we record today, they're going to announce the Pac-12 commissioner. It's probably not going to be Oliver Luck.
Damn. It is MGM Resorts President George Kliavkoff. I hope that I'm saying it right.
That's fine.
He took, I don't know what BAM is, but generated billions for BAM, did a big deal with Hulu. And this is the quote. I'll censor it because we try to stay away from expletives here. Someone said, he's proven he knows how to get S done. He's not Larry Scott. He's going to listen, collaborate, and build trust with ADs. George, first thing you need to do is get that Pac-12 network on DirecTV. That's been a major thing where schools haven't had that revenue source of additional TV revenue from DirecTV because the Pac-12 network hasn't been on there. So apparently this guy, MGM Resorts President George Kliavkoff, is the new Pac-12 commissioner. Right. Interesting pick. Someone who's not sports related, someone who's entertainment related.
And Hulu, that's good. I mean, this kid getting on this. Don't forget, we have our Jousters. If you missed the episode last week, I don't know what you were doing with your life. We have our Jousters merch we're giving away. We're almost at 1,300 subscribers, so we need 200 more. When we get to 1,500, we're going to give away the Jousters merch. We got 2 shirts here. So, like and subscribe and share the video.
It's going to get your fans more engaged 24/7, 365 days a year. And the CFL they don't seem to grasp that. They think, you know what? We'll have our fans engaged 2 weeks or 3 before free agency, then during the season, and that's good enough for us. Well, no other business runs that way successfully in sports now. nowadays.
The Markcast is available wherever you download podcasts, whether Apple, Spotify, Google. It's all over the place. It's also on XFL News Hub and YouTube.
What's up, XFL Army? If you're a fan of the XFL News Hub and you have a telephone, which I know all of you do because you're sitting there playing on your phones all the time, then why not download the XFL News Hub app? That's right, it's on iTunes. It's on Android. We have an Android version and an iPhone version of the XFL News Hub app. So what do you get? You get the latest news from XFL News Hub, the premier source of XFL news in the universe. Plus, you get push notifications when we have breaking news. You will be the first to know. You can leave a comment on some of the news right from your phone. Plus, you get this podcast on your phone as well. Remember, you can leave us reviews on the Google Play Store or iTunes. It links to other social media, our other social media accounts, and so much more. Be in the know. I know you're on your phones. People are on their phones all the time. They never get off their phones. So why not just download the XFL News Hub app on your Android or iPhone today? All you need to do is go to the Google Play Store or iTunes and just type in XFL News Hub. That's XFL News Hub. Download our app on your phone today. All right, we are back at this commercial break. So one of the things that come up is there's two things I want to get to before we get to the social media aspect of things, and we'll check out our friends in the chat room as well. So Reed and other people have brought up so when the XFL talks about, or when the CFL talks about business model, and they're talking business model, what does that mean? And the only thing I could say is that it's more to me when I see that language, it's almost like when, say, if you bought a McDonald's franchise, and McDonald's is terrible, and you get a manual basically of how you don't just get a McDonald's, and I hate McDonald's, but how about let's go with Cava. Let's look at that. Since The Rock and Danny Garcia are part owners of Cava. Say if you get a Cava, they don't just say here's Cava and go build, and here's the building and go on. They give you a manual for every aspect of it. How you should market locally, how you should cook the food, where you should buy your merch, how do you do the employee stuff, the benefits, the taxes, the pay, the basic, everything you can think of. And when the XFL was part of this auction, or put up for auction, and the whole bidding and all this other stuff and all these people signing to get documents, it was said to me multiple times that basically the XFL is turned and ready to go. Like, you get the manual, you get everything, and you could basically flip the switch on and go. And the idea, at least during the summer, was somebody could buy the league and then by October flip the switch on and go. They would not be able to flip the switch on without some kind of extensive manual. And I think the thing when they talk about business model for the CFL, it could be things of like all the research and money that they poured into, what ticket prices should be, how the team presidents and coaches were accessible, and how things worked when they were promoting the league, and these type of events that they did that were successful. And these are the type of things that you need to do locally. You have your team president out, and these days work. Have your coaches, have some players appear, doing appearances. This is what we did for this. This is the social media aspect of it. We hired 3 people. One person did this, and they were in charge of this. These are the events that we did. These are the ones that worked, and these are the ones that didn't. This is what you do with your season ticket holders. This is what your price point is. This is what you give your season ticket holders. I mean, just the management of for everything, every single aspect of it. They basically had this package together, not just numbers and everything else, but like a basic manual of how to run your league. And I think those are the type of things that they're having discussions with when they, at least to me, I don't know this firsthand knowledge, and remember NDAs are signed. It's that the business model that was successful for the XFL and the things that they did, because that's really what this league needs. This CFL business model is very archaic and needs to be modernized. And the experience with Redbird Capital and the XFL on how, this is information about how the Yankees do it. This is the Red Sox. This is how they do it. This is how the Yes Network is put together. You have people that used to work for the Cleveland Browns that are part of Redbird Capital. Hey, this is how NFL franchises do stuff. This is, you know what I mean? Like that level of detail from how we do the drafts, how our TV partners are, how our radio partners are, like all of that stuff. I think the CFL has just been kind of like flailing and not really knowing what to do. And this is how we do things online. I mean, the XFL's social media presence knocked it out of the park. I mean, there's legends in the CFL space of people. We know the people by name who were doing stuff with this XFL and the social media presence. And that's tapping in. I'm sure some of these owners of CFL teams have never heard of what TikTok is. But the XFL had TikTok and Instagram and all sorts of stuff. And we met the people that were doing those things. So I think that's what the whole business model thing is there. When you hear that term, I just think of it in terms of somebody buying a McDonald's and getting that owner's manual and being able to say, hey, this could work for us. This couldn't work for us. And there's supposedly, allegedly, committees going around talking about rules, maybe. Who knows what's going on behind the scenes? But at least the people behind the scenes, the people that are actually having these conversations, even though they have NDAs, are all speaking very highly and positively of their experience so far. The only people that are speaking negatively, and this goes into point number 2, is the people who I'm very confused over the last when we were doing this since March, I guess, when all this stuff has come out. This is rant number 2. It has struck me as a bit odd. There is this disdain from some fans and people who cover the CFL. Yet they talk about it and they cover it. And I'll give you an example. I am no longer covering the WWE. I was, and you could look this up, not only my claim to fame is that I sold Impact Wrestling name to TNA Wrestling. I was also the first podcaster talking about wrestling. I'll give you want to know how long I was doing that for? I started that before my oldest daughter was born, and she is turning 16 in the next couple months. So that's that. It was like when there was no Libsyn and SoundCloud and all these other things out there. I was doing podcasts. I had worked with somebody, and podcasting had just starting up, and I forget the guy's name that used to work. Chat room, help me. What was the guy's name? I want to say Kurt Loder, but that's not it. Who is the guy that started podcasting and made it kind of a thing? And he worked for MTV. Anybody remember his name? Well, I forget his name. But that's the guy who started the podcasting thing. So anyway, so he was the one that started doing podcasting, and this whole thing started coming out. And so I started doing podcasting. And so I was covering WWE for a very, very, very long time. And honestly, after a while, it was not fun anymore. And I'm just checking the stream here. Everything looks fine on my end. I'm getting an error, playback error, but can you still see the feed? It's not Dave Tom Green, no. It's a guy with that like really nice hair. I can't remember his name. If I see it, if I see the name, I'll do it. Anyway, all right. So I was covering the WWE, and after a while, like it just wasn't fun anymore. So that gives you how long I covered the WWE. I'm talking multiple websites, from Impact Wrestling Online, Impact Wrestling, All Wrestling, covering the WWE. And it got to the point where it became not fun. And I was like, why am I doing this? Why is it that I have to watch a show that I could get completely disappointed on every single week? And WWE just had their pay-per-view, apparently. I believe it was over the weekend. And the same thing. People were like, that was the worst thing we've ever seen. So why watch it? I don't understand this disdain from some fans and people who cover the league. If you don't have to talk about it. You don't have to cover it. If you have such disdain for the people that are in charge of the CFL, go do something else. Don't cover it anymore. No one has let's see here. What do I got back here? A can of Zoa about to smash it over your head if you don't cover the CFL. Like and I think that's the part that kind of bothers me, because I hear people who were named nameless on shows, radio programs, talking about the CFL. It's like they're disgusted by the CFL. It doesn't matter if the CFL came up with the cure for COVID. And now my video is probably going to get banned because I said that. You know what? They would still complain about it. They would still be like, oh, well, they should have been working on the rules. Why did they come up with the thing for COVID? You know what I mean? It's like, if you hate it so much and you hate the people, the organization, and you mock it, then why do you cover it? Like, you're an idiot. Then don't cover it. Do something else. What's the sport with the broom? Where they push the little thing and it goes over the ice and they sweep it. Curling. You go do that. Or how about, we have cornhole. We throw the beanbag in the little hole. Go cover that. Like, there's this weird disdain. And I think the weird thing is when we were covering the XFL for more than it was 2 years, there was never like this disdain for the XFL. And that's my point to all of this. You're never going to get disdain from me, from the XFL or the CFL. Why? Because this is sports and this is supposed to be fun. This is not that serious, okay? Your national pride is not on the line because the football league you like plays 3 downs or 4 downs. Like, this is sports. This is not that serious. And I don't take myself serious either. Like, if you don't like to cover something, then don't do it. But there's like this disdain. And you are not, and this is the difference between us at XFL and CFL News Hub and anybody else. You're not going to get that. You know why? Because you don't care. Like, why do you, like, we all have enough going on in our lives. Do we need some drama created by others, like hating on the sport that they're covering, which is the most asinine thing of all time? Like, you have to not be very bright. If you're going to cover something that you have so much disdain for, just go away. You're not going to get that with CFL News Hub. What you're going to get is, this is the facts. This is what's going on. Yeah, if the Elks name themselves the Elbows or the Eyeballs, you're going to get me a little, I'm going to be like, you know what, guys? Probably not a good idea. But hey, you're the ones that did the research. You paid the money. You figure it out. There's like this weird, and it's very American, if I do might say, that might ruffle some feathers, of some of these people who claim to be this proud Canadian people, yet they act very American. Because to me, that's a very American thing to do. You know, you have guys on ESPN and these other channels where they talk trash about the sports that they're covering. And it's like, what? Then don't cover it if you hate it so much. But there's a lot of things behind the scenes with some of the media folks up north that we've realized too. And I might even have an article exposing some of that stuff, their biases, where they come from, just to kind of set the record straight. But for us, we have no skin in the game. We just want to cover the league. We want the league to succeed. So why, if you want the league to succeed, why would you cover it with such disdain? Because you're an idiot. Because you're turning people away from the product that you're trying to make money on and report on. Like, do you see how dumb you are? I don't know how else to put it. You're just stupid. You're a stupid person. If you cover something and trash it all the time, that the management is stupid, that this people are stupid, and that they do this stupid, and everything about them is stupid. Unless you have an axe to grind because you're afraid of something. You're afraid of Big Bag America coming, taking your spot, or you're afraid that your sport is going to get put in the back burner because football is a coming. One of those things is, I don't even know how else to say it, chat room. But honestly, the disdain in some people in their coverage is annoying. It's very Loserville. It's very American for my Canadian friends out there. Don't do it. Go do something else. Cover soap operas. You know what I mean? But you're not going to get that from us on XFL News Hub and CFL News Hub. We're just going to report the facts, and this is supposed to be fun. And that's the bottom line, because Mark said so. And we'll leave it at that, chat room. I'll get to you guys in a second in the chat room. Have no fear. Let's get to some of our social media stuff, shall we, my friends? Okay? And I will bash somebody over the head with a Zoa energy drink if they get a little out of hand. I'll do it. They just need to get some Termana tequila, have a drink, and relax. By the way, I need to get The Rock's new merch, too. Just pointing that out, too. The Spring League Generals roster breakdown. Somebody pointed out, Riley says they have Michael Scott on their offensive line. I didn't know that. The Generals have Michael Scott on their line. Gee, like that guy has never heard that before. But I'll give you credit. That was good. That was good. I love me some Office. Zach checking in about last week's podcast. He says, if you're interested in starting up a live shows again, can you please consider 7 o'clock your time, because 6 o'clock my time? It wouldn't be bad for me at all. Just tune in, hang out after dinner. This was the vote. It was over 50%, 51% of the people voted for have 8 o'clock, and that's fine by me. Gives me a little extra time in case anything goes wrong, like the feed this morning. I had the feed, I promoted the feed, and then I clicked the button, it started streaming, and I was like, no, I just need to pause it, and then I had to redo it over again. I'm just figuring it out. Battlehawks Tamu getting cut by the Chiefs. Jason says come back to STL. He said to play baseball or hockey. What? He plays for the Battlehawks. Michael, not really sure what you're talking about there, my friend, but okay. On to the YouTube comments. Chris says 9 to 10. That's a little too late, but I appreciate that. Until the TSL plays the XFL, CFL, or college team, you can't really gauge how really great or not they are. This is true. This is true about the TSL, but at least it gives us something. Jack checking in. Nice video. Thank you. Paladin. All the time sound good to me, Mark, for Monday, so I'll let everyone else vote. All right. Thank you very much. That's very nice of him. Jacob says, why did not start in 2022? What happened? Jacob, the problem is that they've been doing this dance with the CFL. And it's too late now because they don't even have a CFO. My prediction, sure to go wrong, is that I believe that I think the CFO will come in the fall. And then I think everybody's just waiting to see if they can get the CFL season off the ground. Remember, coaches and team presidents started in February. So that means that in February and March, the XFL needs to start hiring for 2023. So it's too late now. I mean, you could jam it in, but I think, who knows? Maybe they're, especially with this whole mass, but still, I think the XFL still needs to kind of, everything is looking good and it's promising. Everybody's getting the jab, and that's great and all. But I still think they want to see how things turn in the fall. I think they're playing it right. If they are a league, and remember, this is the other parallel to the CFL and XFL. They both made their money off of gate. The XFL made no money off of their television. So there's definitely some similarities between how the leagues were run. So I think so that's why. There's a pause in 2022. Let's see what goes on with the CFL thing. Maybe the disdainers, the disties, we'll have to give them a nickname of something. Homers. No, not homers. I don't know. We'll have to come up with a nickname. Whatever they are. The ones that cover the league but hate the league. The oxymorons. That they, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But if they're right and the league doesn't happen, then maybe the league folds and then XFL takes it or takes a couple. Like, who knows? We don't know. Have a feeling that they're definitely going to have a season. I think things are going to move forward. And I've said this to two. Am I going to say put your money on it or bank on it that it's a full merger? No. I don't think it's going to be a full merger. I'm not there yet. I'll be one of the few that say that it's not going to be a full merger. I think because if you're looking at global expansion and you're going to have Mexico and European league teams, you can't be all under one umbrella. You need to be small, lean, and agile to be able to make moves, not big, clunky corporation. That won't work. Maybe down the road, 5 years down the road, maybe. All right. Jack says, Francois, not Franiosis. I said his name wrong. The guy on the Blues, the quarterback for the Blues, it's Francois, not Franiosis. I remember I used to play this game, this baseball game on, it was like the Commodore 64. Was it the Commodore 64? This is how, I've been doing this for a long time. The Commodore 64, a baseball game, and there was a player, and his name was Jose, and we'd always call him Jose. And it was like, this was like as a kid, I was like, I don't know, 12 years old or something, and he was the best player, Jose was the best player. And it wasn't until I was like in my 20s or something where I was like, whoa, it's Jose? That how you say it? Yeah. I'm trash. I'm white trash. What can I tell you? I'm from Long Island. I can't be white trash. From New York. But there's trashy New Yorkers too. John says, Mark, I would rather you stay on Tuesdays with the Spring League games on Monday night. How would you review the last game of the week? Now, this is just an aberration. I think most of their games are still on Fridays and Saturdays kind of thing. And Jacob also says, what happened to the MLFB? Again, that's one we don't know about. Again, they say every year that they're going to do something, and they're not doing anything. Hub Football is doing something. They're having a practice. There's information about that. So if players are interested in getting game tape, they are up front. They're like, you got to pay. But guys who have played in the Hub Football did get signed to some deals in the NFL. 7 of them, I believe. That's articles on XFL News Hub. So you have Hub Football if you want to get name out there. You have Fan Control Football if you want to get your name out there. And then you have the Spring League. And then CFL, XFL, well, we'll see about those guys coming up. On the Instagram, talking about Eric Dungy signing with the Cincinnati Bengals. America guy, 1776. Do you think he's from Canada? As a Syracuse fan, I am really happy for him. He will be the free agent steal of the year if he ends up playing games for the Bengals if Joe Burrow gets hurt. Yeah, I really wanted to see Eric Dungy in the Spring League. Out of any of the players in the Spring League, he was the one that I wanted to see the most. All right, let's go check in on our chat here. Adam Curry, that's it. Adam Curry is the guy there. Let's see. Let's check out some of our friends in the feed here. John says, I hope you have a blast this December. I'm super excited. I was telling my wife that we're all in. We're basically going to drive up to Hamilton. We'll spend some time at Niagara Falls and do that touristy thing, and then we'll be right over the border and then going and going to the Grey Cup and hanging out. Also planning a Ravens trip this year, Miami or Las Vegas. Those are the two that we're kind of picking. So I'd love to hang out with some of my pals if we ever go on these trips to come hang out. Now that we can at least we can hang out in Maryland. This is the other thing too. If the CFL, Randy, I know you listen. I know The Rock. I know Danny Garcia. Everybody at Redbird Capital, they all listen to the show. I know you guys do. Listen, make some phone calls. Why not play the first month of the CFL season? How cool would it be? Just throwing this out there as their plan C, D, E, F with this partnership, and maybe this is part of the deal. I don't think it is whatsoever. Playing some of those games in CFL cities. Could you imagine playing the first 3? I mean, New York just opened up as well. Playing the first, bunch of games at the Meadowlands or here in Baltimore at M&T Bank Stadium. playing, hey, the whole stadium is open. You make a deal with the Ravens, however it is. No one's in the stadium right now. They're not going to be in there. Well, August, but they would be ramping it up for preseason. You could do that. Like could you imagine the CFL playing their games in Baltimore? At least the first season until you get into September and the numbers start to go down. You'd probably get more fans, especially if there was a connection between the XFL and CFL going forward. Then fans would have a vested interest in that. Oh, yeah. So let's see. John says, I guess you're unaware of Alberta's oil history. Oh, maybe that's it. Maybe the big middle finger to the NFL is that the Roughnecks logo goes to Edmonton. And it's the Edmonton Roughnecks. Imagine that. Well, no, because they need the Houston Roughnecks. Let's see. What else? Joe says, have a blast in December. I'm looking forward to it. Let's see. Let's see what else we got here. The CFL has to know what they are going to do better. The question is if they care to improve it. Markcast. We'll see. We'll see what who knows what they're working on. Let's see. John says the CFL goes to one network and says, pay us money, and they say, we think this is fair, and the CFL says, okay, that seems fair, as we have no other offers. Let's see. Mark checking in. Let's see here. All right, Adam Curry was the name there. Curling was the other one there. Chris says, decade-long Canadian TV show, The Beachcombers, cool name for CFL team. The New Brunswick Beachcombers. LOL. To me, like, and I'm like, beach, I think Florida. I don't think Canada, I think beach. But still, the Schooners, right? Wasn't that something, too? Let's see here. Any true American, any indoor football league news? I know that they're playing. I think that's something going on here. John says, Energy, Alberta, oil capital of Canada. The Energy is the name. Edmonton Elbows, the Markcast. Yeah, I like that one. Edmonton Empire. Let's see. Oh, Marquez says TSL tonight delayed until at least 9:06. Well, I'll get you out of here at 9:06 to get that room. Marquez says XFL News Hub is getting our room, right, Mark? Yes. Yes, I will get the room. We'll get the couple rooms, especially if we're doing well. I will tell you this. As much as, some in the media had poo-pooed the TSL games and their ratings, it was fabulous for XFL News Hub. I mean, big numbers, especially on those Fox games. And that's what I'm banking on for Canadian CFL. Really, honestly, most of the time, as I'm cleaning my glasses, most of the time, fans really turn out before the season. So that's why, like, we're laying the groundwork. We're doing this show now. We're actually using the Spring League as well as a test bed to see how things are going. And it's all just kind of a test bed to lead up when the games kick in. And then I think the numbers will be great. And I'm super excited for the CFL season. I'm more excited. I'm excited to either go to Vegas or Miami for the Ravens, but I'm even more excited for the CFL, honestly. I cannot wait. It's hard to cover the players. It was just like, it reminds me when we started the XFL News Hub and the players come in. It's like, I don't know. I knew who, like, PJ Walker was, but I wasn't like into it, you know what I mean? And Cam Phillips was like, oh, he played for the Hokies, so I know him. You know what I mean? It wasn't, but once they started playing and you started getting the guys and you're like, I like this guy, I like that guy, I like this team and that kind of, I like this offense. That's what's going to happen when we get this CFL season kicking. It's going to be interesting for CFL because this is the first time that should be some interest from the United States fans. I'm sure there was before, but there'll definitely be more now because of the XFL and because of your friends from XFL News Hub. On to the emails real quick so we can get you back to watching your Spring League game. Let's see. Larry says, do the teams talking about the TSL? The teams represent a city. How about showing the city in the standings listings or when you click on the team name? Yes. So no, there are no cities yet. I would assume maybe down in the future, but that's got to be part of the 10-year plan. There is no way they're that close to. I think this model that they have is perfect. I can't see, maybe they could add a team. The expense needed and the capital to get that off the ground, that means like the Fox has a huge interest in it. I think, and I've said this before, that Brian Woods is trying to work a deal with the NFL and be partnered with them, because that would work for him. He could have a spring league in March, in between that, like right after the draft kind of league. But then they've got mini camps. I don't think they really need him, to be honest with you. Let's see. Dan checking in. I like your CFL/XFL coverage. Thank you very much. I've been listening to your podcast for a few weeks now, and I'm really enjoying your take on how the leagues could cooperate in the future. Level-headed and realistic. That's what, again, I'm not trying to hate and cover something that pisses me off. What would be your thoughts on, one, having all the CFL, XFL teams play with the same rule book, with the exception that 3 downs are played on Canadian soil, 4 downs on American? To me, this seems to solve one of the biggest interleague play problems, and so far nobody can explain to me why it wouldn't work. It would have zero impact on the playbook. Canadian teams visiting the U.S. simply add an extra down with play, while American teams visiting Canada would start possessions on their second and long plays. This makes perfect sense for at least the first 5 years of partnership. Explore the impact of the number of downs in the spring game. Allow Canadian amateur football, hardcore CFL fans of primary differentiator Canadian game, and expose American fans to the brand of football. It's been successful for decades. I don't know, really. I wouldn't say it's been successful for decades. After 5 years, they could decide and go one way or the other, but at least they tried. Now, that's an interesting point. I will give you that one. Just keep the CFL rules for the first year or two. But then, I mean, if you're going to switch everything up, you got to switch everything up. And honestly, I don't think 3-down football necessarily helps the CFL, because, it comes back to all the college football players and they all go to the United States and play 4-down football. But I do like the take of, there's definitely opening with the 12 men and the bigger field, like, opens up the, some guys will play really well, and that's the problem with the rules. Some guys will play really well under XFL rules and some guys won't, but some guys will play good under CFL rules and some won't. I like that. That's a valid take, and one that needs to be considered. And honestly, with the rule book, you want to kind of have it so that it opens, however it's positioned, it needs to open up so as many players can be eligible for it. So, for example, if you make the rule book that you need offensive linemen that are 500 pounds, you're kind of limiting it, especially with the offensive line play, as how can I get quality offensive line play by changing the rules, because all the great offensive linemen are going to be in the NFL. And without a good offensive line, you can't protect the quarterback, you can't have high-scoring games, etc. So if you build the rules that give the advantage to the offensive line, they don't need to be 350 pounds. They can be 280, that kind of thing. I think then, like that kind of play. But you need to have something. I think a lot of the coaches would have a problem with a different rule book, because the play call of the games would be different. But they could adjust. An XFL local player ratio, something we've talked about here. I know you mentioned the idea of having an XFL ratio with Division II and Division III players, which I think would be cool. But this wouldn't be really fair to the XFL teams, because lots of Canadian players play at D1. Why not have the leagues hire an independent consultant firm to define a set of counties surrounding each stadium to be the Canada of the XFL, and the ratio, blah, blah, blah. Those counties could be chosen in a way per team, talent produced. I mean, there's some way you can figure that out. Talking about the local ratio, while the local ratio is admittedly a much bigger ask of the XFL, this would solve the other major point of contention in fairness of interleague play, and also be additional benefit to the XFL. like in the CFL, instead of plugging and playing an NFL cut into a starting lineup, it forces teams to sign young guys and develop them as starters. I really think that the XFL, especially with The Rock, like they're all about trying to get people opportunity. So don't freak out about this rule, because I think they have to build a system in a way to give people chances, because a guy like The Rock is definitely going to put himself in a position in the CFL and be like, okay, if I were to come out and play in this XFL, CFL thing, how could I have succeeded? Well, you got to get paid a little bit decent. And what were the rules, like, that would give me an opportunity to play, that would have allowed me to have a decent career in this league and not in the NFL? I'm sure that that's part of what they're looking at. I know the interleague play would require lots of give and take on the rules, but the way I see it, the above two succession solves the biggest point of contention. And if they have to eliminate the 55-yard line or move the 15-yard end zone, slightly reduce the width, the rouge, blah, blah, blah. I think most CFL fans would have a hard time bitching and moaning about that compromise. Anyways, I know, given a lot of thought, and nobody has been able to explain to me what's wrong with the above suggestions. So if you have time, I'd really appreciate hearing your thoughts. Keep up the good work, Dan. Checking in. Again, I think it's the coaches and the players might having an issue with playing one style versus another. Maybe you could do different fields. I don't know. I really don't know how this is going to play out, what the rules are. I mean, they might just keep most of the CFL rules. The XFL rules worked great. I mean, people loved them. But again, it's a bigger impact. And that's where it comes into making such a drastic change to the CFL, where that has so much impact beyond just the CFL game, but there's the U Sports impact of it. So to keep it simple, really, the first year is to be like, well, let's just play the CFL rules in the XFL. But again, I think the XFL looked at those rules and had some issues with them, and that's why they didn't adopt some of them. But apparently they're not talking about rules, so who knows? Ken checking in. Mark, the weekly update site looks great. Graphics and stats. As a lifelong athlete fan and watcher of football and FS1, I was curious about deeper stats and ran across your site. Congrats and well done. Thank you. Question about the cities that are not listed next to the Knicks names. Also be curious to ask about co-branding opportunities. I run a compact wounded military chat with the decent and recent addition of George Strait as a spokesman. Military Warriors Support Foundation. Yeah, let me know. We've talked about charities that we would hang out with for XFL News Hub. And being in this area in Maryland, a lot of military guys out here. So, yeah. But there's no city because the TSLs, they don't have cities yet. Before they were all playing in one place. Now they're playing in two separate locations. Maybe in a couple years they would actually have their own cities. But that's going to require lots of money that I don't think they have. All right. That's it for the social media stuff, my friends. Chris says Hershey Bar Man is looking at me. Somebody said that he was creepy. I like him though. I also got back here, my friends, one of my new toys. You can't see him. Now you see him. He's creepy now. Is my Doge dog. If you don't know, I'm a big Dogecoin fan. I also have another site called Dogecoin News Hub. Shocker. And I got to put him somewhere. Maybe he can go if he goes over here. See, he looks kind of pissed. Maybe he's a CFL fan. A CFL hater fan. Doesn't he look mad? He's kind of creeping me out. I don't think I could do a show with him sitting right there. I think he would be too distracting. I like him, though. I just got him this week. Dogecoin was doing well. Elon Musk, the whole deal. Oh, knocked that one over. But, yeah, so we got Doge Dog over here. And then Alf, too. And then the Hershey guy. So, yeah, it's all good. It's all good, my friends. All right. Hey, we did it. We got through this show. Fantastic. All right. Remember, if you want to be part of the show, you can contact us, podcast at xflnewshub.com with your MP3 videos, or call 888-430-7692, extension 3. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, and remember to like and subscribe right now. Like this video. Smash the like button and subscribe, because that helps the YouTube algorithm. This is how I've seen guys blow up their channels big time, and I'm a big Dogecoin fan. I want to do something with Dogecoin and fantasy aspect of it somehow. I definitely want to do that. All right. That's it for this week's show. Again, let's see. We'll go over my notes at the end of the show. We got our Google Play app. Remember, you can listen to us everywhere on podcasts. You get all that. Show notes, xflnewshub.com/xfl-podcast. If you're listening and watching to this show, you also need to listen to the Markcast. That's it as well. Make Reed happy. Give him a like. Give them a like and subscribe. I think they have more followers than other people in our realm of things now, too, which is awesome. Chris says, I like Dogecoin. Yes. Oh, don't get me started on Dogecoin stuff. All right. It's been a rough little couple days for Doge, but it'll come back. All right. That's it for me, folks. Again, we'll be back 8 p.m. Eastern on Mondays doing this show live. I screwed up the thing in the beginning. I'm getting better at it, but at least we don't have a choppy video this go around. So it's been a lot of fun. That's it for me, folks. And I will see you all later.